She's involved with a man named Lou Holmes, San Francisco broker.
It is Friday. Come on in, hang out with us. Lots to do, lots to talk about. Lots of good things on the way today. Pleasant Doom is in the room. Kevin 11 is hanging around. I see, what is it? What's it? Alex IV 1969 is a systems tester, he says. Well, you can test out our stream today. Oh, Malone's there. Hello. Finally, Friday is being brought to you by Major Spoilers VIP and Patreon members from around the world. You can show your support by heading over to patreon.com/Major Spoilers. Every little bit helps and keeps this channel going far into the future. Happy Friday to each and every single one of you out in the world. Oh, I am so happy that you are here. And look who we have with us this week. It is one, Ashley Victoria Robinson.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you are here because you've had a pretty good week with your latest Kickstarter, Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio, the original graphic novel. If you have not visited this, I'm going to pop this up on the website right here. I don't have this hooked up to where they can hear you at the moment, but over at Kickstarter, you can see right now they are almost at their goal. And I know our dear fans listening and watching out there will want to get over to Kickstarter and support Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio, a new original graphic novel from Jason Inman and Ashley Victoria Robinson. Ashley, how has the week gone? We talked about this on the Major Spoilers podcast earlier in the week on the day of launch. How's everything been going? A lot of looks like a lot of positive buzz.
Yeah, it's been going super, super well, which is really, really encouraging. I'm really hoping Jupiter Jet Volume 1 funded in 5 days. I'm really hoping that Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio funds in less than 5 days. 5 days will be tomorrow, Saturday, and we're less than $2,000 away from meeting the goal. Yeah,
so if you are in the chat right now and you haven't pledged, time to do it.
Today.
Yeah,
also,
it'd be great if we could get this happen.
Something I see people say all the time is they're like, "Oh, I'll pledge later. I'll pledge when my paycheck comes in." And if people aren't familiar with Kickstarter, you won't be charged until the campaign ends on February 20th.
Yeah,
and
so you've got some time to save up. Yeah.
Yeah. If people can't, because like I've been there where I've wanted to pre-order something or I've wanted to support and I can't do it. If people would consider sharing the link, jupiterjetcomic.com, I would be so grateful. And if anyone tags our Twitter at jupiterjetcomic, we're going to follow them from that account. So please.
Oh, nice. Well, hold on a second. I gotta wait a minute. Wait. Let's do this real quick. At Jupiter
Jet Comic.
Because
someone already owned Jupiter Jet and wanted to sell it to me for too much money.
So close to the goal. Great job.
Also, I'm the one who operates that account. So
let's hit the goal today. And what is the it's jupiterjetcomic.com. So we'll tweet this out.
Thank you.
And let's see.
Pretty sure we already follow Major Spoilers, of course.
Well, I mean, I don't. There now, I follow Jupiter Jet. There we go. Nice. So we've talked a little bit about Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio earlier on the Major Spoilers podcast. But some of these people who are watching either on the playback or live today, hello, all you awesome people in the chat. Tell us, what is Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio? This is the sequel to the very first volume, obviously. But what do we have going on here with our hero?
So Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio picks up exactly 1 year after Jupiter Jet Volume 1, which if you're looking at Steven, it's right behind him on the top of the spinner rack.
There it is, right there. My own copy.
Which is cool because I have a bunch of them on my spinner rack. One side of it is all our books. The rest of it is mostly Robin's and Superman's at my house.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense.
But so, yeah. So this is a spoiler for the end of Volume 1. So, like, cover your ears for the next 10 seconds, or if you're watching this later, skip ahead. So at the end of Volume 1, Jupiter Jet learns that she doesn't live on Earth in 1935. She actually lives on Europa, which is a moon that is orbiting Jupiter. in some year that she doesn't necessarily know. Jason and I know that as the writers. I don't know if it's ever going to be revealed. And so volume 2, yeah, well, I just don't know how relevant it is. Like, we know we set it very far in the future so that we could not worry about trying to reflect modern technology or you know, we're not trying to do the Star Trek thing with pads. So we're like thousands of years in the future. And so in volume 2, she's been Jupiter Jet, the hero of Olympic Heights, for a full year. That's the city that she lives in. She is working with the Children of Gaia. That's the resistance group that was introduced in issue 3 and 4 of the first volume. And we meet her in media res. The first 5 pages, by the way, are up on the Kickstarter campaign. She's in the atmosphere. She's doing resistance stuff. And she meets a new foe called the Black Flyer. And they get into it up in space. And the Black Flyer brings Jupiter Jet into space, takes her to a new heavenly body, which she's never gone to before, and reveals their identity to be someone from Jupiter Jet's past that Jackie probably thought she was never going to see again. And so it goes really, really sci-fi, really science fantasy in volume 2, but because it is a superhero origin story and people really responded to the Rocketeer-ness of it all, we are preserving that with Jackie's little brother Chuck, who was her mechanic in volume 1. And in volume 2, he wants to be a superhero of his own. So he is in Olympic Heights. He's on the ground level, and we give him a nemesis to go after.
Nice.
And it's the story of how their relationships doing these 2 different things in these 2 different places ebbs and flows. And if people read the Kickstarter campaign, and I'm not convinced people do read the Kickstarter campaign, if I'm going to be completely honest, but if you read it, or if you listen to a lot of the interviews that we're doing, you might notice that things like Westerns and cowboys and horses are being mentioned a lot. And that might be because we are exploring a different aesthetic and time period as well in Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio. So
nice. So it's almost like she's visiting Westworld or something, right?
It's almost like that. But with there's no androids. There are robots. There were robots in volume 1, but they're more like Tin Man robots. They're pretty. No one's hiding the fact that they're robots.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. That's really great. And yeah, I think if people can get out there this week, tweet it, even if you're just sharing the link, even if you can't. But I think that is something that if someone's never supported a Kickstarter before, number one, there's a $1 support pledge that you can do. You can do as much or as little as you want. You don't have to back this at the full price of like $6,000 for that high end one.
I mean, if you have $6,000, we would love it.
But, if you want to get the book, and I want to talk a little bit more about this book because this is something I've been talking about for a couple of years now. $25 for the book. And some people might go, well, gee, gosh, golly, that sure is an awful lot for a single issue of a comic book. But ladies and gentlemen, you're getting the full series. You're getting the full volume at that $25 level. That's for the physical copy of the book. Now look how thick.
120 pages.
120 pages of comics for that $25 level. And you guys are doing this a little bit different because the original Jupiter Jet, if I remember correctly, when you finally released that through Action Lab Entertainment, you did that as single issues.
Yes, that was something that that Action Lab really wanted to do and really felt strongly about. And they'd been in the game longer than we did. So we said, sure, okay. And then this time we said, what if we didn't do that? And it's something that Stephen and I discuss a lot on the Major Spoilers podcast. And I think we've been having this discussion as long as we've known each other, that we really believe that that is where the industry needs to go. So as a creator, Jason and I really felt like it was time to put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, but also then that way it's way easier to fulfill the campaigns because we don't have to wait for that book to be printed and try to get it earlier and all this things like that. It's easier from a writing perspective because we're writing for the trade, but it's only being released as a trade, so it doesn't get wonky when you're sort of disconnected from month to month. And that way we're able to be a little more like a sniper and a little less like someone with a shotgun. We're able to focus all of our efforts on the one release day, on the one Kickstarter campaign, and then, taking it to conquer the world. So it's something that we have always wanted to. It's why we release Science in that format. And I'm so happy that Action Lab agreed, and that's how we're going to go moving forward.
Yeah, I just really think that, especially when this is an all ages comic, right? I mean, this is something that someone in the 8-year-old and higher range could pick up and probably enjoy. And I think that's the one thing that people are forgetting is that, yes, we have been conditioned over the last 100 years of comics that, hey, we go out and we pick up our sequential story every month and we read it, and it's so good, and we have no other entertainment to distract us that we only focus on the very next month when we're going to go out and buy the next issue because there's nothing else in entertainment to distract us. There's no such thing as a video game or a TV or a radio or a movie or a Twitter or social media. And so the only thing we're focusing on is that monthly release. Of course, I'm being sarcastic and facetious here because there are so many things that are distracting from single issue monthly series that, yes, you might get to go out and buy that first issue, but then unless the media PR push is super hard every single month, eventually you're going to forget, or you're going to have a skip or whatever, or the first issue maybe doesn't have the one thing in it that is really going to sell the comic for you, although all first issues are. But when you write direct for the trade, or when you write to the OGN, then you go out and you buy it and you get the complete story. You don't have to wait until next month, or you don't have to wait 6 months from now to find out what happens. And as someone who has a kid who has multiple times over the last week, young kid, 8-year-old, the sidekick, has said, I think I want to make some comics. And I'm like, great, start writing and start drawing, kid. My friend and I are going to make some comics. I'm like, great. My sidekick loves reading Dogman and Captain Underpants and Halo. And you know what? Those are all OGN's complete story. They're not released monthly. They come out when they come out. And those things sell like hotcakes. Number one, because they're going through, what is it? Not Publishers Weekly, but the little thing, Scholastic Press.
Scholastic, yeah.
Yeah. And so every kid gets these and are reading these things. Yeah, no. So, I mean, I really think that there are so many people in the industry who are still on that old model of we have to sell monthly comics. Yeah, if you want to make Batman come out monthly, make Batman come out monthly. But you know what? Brian Michael Bendis could have taken another 6 months, written and had drawn all of the Legion of Superheroes for the first trade and just released that as a single volume, and it would have sold as well or better than the single issues. The math just seems to work out from my perspective.
Earth One proves that. The DC Kids books prove that. And as a creator who's done both of them and someone who's worked as an editor on both types of formats, it's easier on the entire creative process. It's easier on the marketing process, easier on the retailer process to just do one focus at a time with a longer production period. And in my opinion, it creates better stories. People keep asking me, what about Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio do I want people to see the most? And the thing I want you to see the most is how much better writers Jason and I are now.
Oh no, you've had time.
Yeah, we've written different books. Jason's writing for television now. Like, we have had like literal years to get better. Now we do story circles. The whole thing is planned. We just planned volume 3 the other day. We went on a hike and I fell into a creek. And that's the thing that I am like, that's a real thing that happened. That's what I'm most excited for people to get from it. And also the cool thing is when the Kickstarter funds and then the book will come out later this year, by doing it as a single volume, we're going to be able to produce more volumes quicker because there's less of a waiting time while things are being published. I would love for a volume of Jupiter Jet to come out every year or every 2 years. For me, like that would be the dream, because we've always said we have 5 volumes in mind for 5 seasons of a TV show or 5 acts of a movie. Can you imagine?
I cannot imagine that at all. But it seems like you have. So this is really good because it sounds like you have a plan. And that kind of reminds me of something that I'm teaching a class this semester, and I hated teaching the class the last time for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was the first time I taught the class. Number two, they were still using books that were 20 years old. I mean, they had The Purple Cow by Seth Godin, who's come out and said, that book is outdated, and they were still using a 20, 30-year-old book to try to teach entrepreneurial leadership skills and technology. And of course, then I had a kid in there. The third reason there's a kid in there just like hated everything. Just, I don't want to say he was a nihilist, but he had no outlook on life. And even when we did some goal setting in class, he was like, this is a waste of my time. And I hated that class. So this time, a year later, I come in And I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to do this however I want. We're going to get all different books. We're going to come in and I'm just going to really talk about what it means to be a business owner, what it means to set goals. How do you grow? How do you look for these trends and how do you plan things out? And first class, I just went in and said, well, here's how I got to be a business owner. Here's my history. And I went through the lengthy history of my background over the years. And then after class, that evening, I got an email from a kid in class who was like, man, this was so inspiring to hear your story. This was so inspiring to hear how you got to now. And I am someone who has no direction in my life. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? And today we did a goal setting workshop and most of the kids seemed like they were into it and kind of got it. And then afterwards, I don't know if it was the same kid or if it was another kid came up to me and goes, wow, this was really cool. I really enjoyed doing this today. And it's just like, I don't know how people get by without setting some kind of a goal. I know people often poo-poo the New Year's resolution, but today we set goals and it wasn't New Year's, right? We set some short-term and long-term goals with the class, and those worked out very well. And it seems like, Ashley, you too are also setting goals for what you want to accomplish in 1, 3, 5, and maybe even 10 years. You have a 10-year plan, it sounds like, or at least a 5-year plan.
For sure. And it's so interesting that you brought up the person who was like, no, I don't want to set goals. That's stupid because I'm assuming they're a younger person than I am. When I was 18, you know, until a couple years ago, I kind of thought that same way too. Like I thought meditation was silly. I thought mantra was silly. I thought writing your goals down was all that kind of self-talk. And the older I've gotten, the more I realize like the real value in that. And you know, like there's this really cheesy phrase. It's like plan the work and work the plan. And that is so true. And then when you are sitting with your writing partner and trying to figure out how the door closes in a room that someone gets stuck in, you can say, why don't we just have the door close automatically? Because this is not the thing we need to be focused on. And setting goals is something that I have found more and more useful, especially as, I mean, just to really toot my own horn, as I've become more successful.
Well,
but
no, but that's part of it, right? It's setting those goals to become more successful. Toot your horn. You should.
And I've also found that now my goals are a little less like ask or try, and it's more like do, because I'm more willing now to apologize than to ask for permission. And something, especially through making Jupiter Jet the first volume, I learned is that if you knock on doors, you'll be surprised who's willing to help you. And actually, one of the first people I ever did that with was you, Stephen, when I reached out to you the first time to come and work with Major Spoilers. Because Major Spoilers was the first podcast I ever listened to, and I didn't know you from Adam, and you were very welcoming, and you've taught me so much since then.
I don't know about that. I think you're just buttering me up.
Sorry,
I don't have any money to give you. Sorry. No, but I mean, what's really great, and it's amazing, you know, I look at you, and I look at like Zach Wolf, and I just see the people that they were, and I see through drive and ambition and goal setting the people that they've become, you know, how you and he have become very creative, very successful. And I kind of see where you're going. And it just gets me so excited. Not for me, but I get excited for you and for Zach and everybody who has these kinds of things, because it's just like, oh, I see all this growth happening. And it's just so exciting. And here's a little secret. And I don't think people realize this. And I know a lot of people kind of poo-poo things like neuro-linguistic programming and that kind of stuff. But that's kind of what goal setting is. True. Yeah, that's kind of what goal setting is, right? Because it's like, okay, my goal is to next year have Jupiter Jet Volume 3. So you write down the SMART goal. You know, it's got to be specific. It's got to be manageable. It's got to be articulated. It's got to be time limited. And I'm forgetting one. It's got to be specific, right? The S. So I went backwards.
Specific is really true, because like just saying I want to be a successful writer is it's not good enough.
Right. No, you have to be very specific. So we want Jupiter Jet. So here's your goal that you have set out, that you've kind of told me. You haven't really said for sure, but it's basically, I would like to have this come out every year. So you've said Jupiter Jet Volume 3. So that's the specific. It's manageable because you said you're already working on it and you're using the story circle that Dan Harmon sets up, which story circle, if you guys who are watching don't know about Story Circle, you should really check it out. It has really changed the way that I look at story structure as well.
Steven's also the reason I know about Story Circles, and it took me a long time to wrap my head around it, but it totally works if you can do the mental gymnastics.
Yep.
Yeah, because you told me about it a couple years ago, and we actually talked about it maybe about a year ago, and I was like, I don't understand Story Circles.
Yeah. No, it works out perfect. It needs to be articulated, so now you have told us, right? It has to be reasonable, which it sounds like you guys are able, even though with your busy schedule, to get another collection done. Manageable is the one, that's the part that's going to be the tricky part. And then you have a time limit. You have 1 year. So you've done all those things. You can write that down. You can write that goal out, make it as specific as possible. You can envision it. And then all you got to do is stick that goal like on the bathroom mirror, whatever goal it is. And you're looking at that every day and you're like, okay, I've got now 365 days from today to get this next goal to happen. What am I doing today now to make this happen? And what am I doing every day? What's my plan to get from day 0 to day 365? Or this year, it's 366 days. So you get an extra year this year, Ashley. You're going to need that. I think you also nailed it where you said to do something every day, like doing something every day towards your goal, even if it's a little thing, even if it's sending one email or like making one outline, like doing it incrementally makes it seem more like a molehill and less like a mountain. Yes. C. Robert Cargill, I think he's got some great writing advice for people who want to be writers. And you should go check out not only his Twitter feed, but also it's not Script Notes. It is, I forget his podcast, but just look up C. Robert Cargill and his writing podcast, and you'll find it. He gives out wonderful tips. But one thing that he hits on Twitter all the time is you have to write every day. And you have to set a goal of how many words you want to write every day. If your goal is to write 3 pages a day, then you sit down and you write 3 pages until those 3 pages are done. If your goal is to write 500 words a day, then by the end of the year, you've got, a giant novel that's ready to go. This podcast is called Write Along. Yes, Write Along. WRITE. If anyone wants it. Yep. It's a great podcast. Go back to the beginning and listen to it because they're just these little nuggets of information that you really, really ought to listen to. And I think this applies not to somebody who wants to work in comics, somebody who wants to be a writer. This works for anybody who wants to be a good GM. These kinds of things that we're talking about right now work for anybody who wants to move forward in their job, anybody who wants to maybe start a new career. What does it need? What do I need to do? Do a podcast, write a blog site, whatever it may be. Setting up these goals and kind of doing these things and really solidifying it in your head and envisioning. And that's the next part is, what's my life going to be like when I finish Jupiter Jet Volume 3 and it's funded? And what is my life going to be if I don't do this? Looking at those pros and cons and really cementing that into your brain. And that's part of that neuro-linguistic programming. Again, some people don't believe in it, but that mind connection and the will of your body to do these things really does pay off. So, but it's also this thing where if you want to get like real woo-woo about it, you do have to believe that it's going to work. Yes. Because if you do it and you think it's nonsense, of course it's not going to work. And I think sometimes people see that as like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yes. And I also think that you have to be careful about the way that you talk to yourself. If something doesn't go your way, admonishing yourself as a failure is not helpful. Right. I heard this thing that's you should speak to yourself the way you would speak to the 8-year-old version of yourself. Like when kids fall down, you don't call them stupid. You go, no, that's okay. Get up and try again. Yeah. And look, sometimes losses hit us a little harder than we expect. You and I both know that. But it's never the end of the world. And especially with stuff like this, it's comics, and comics will go on forever, and that's beautiful. Yeah. So if you want to even go even further frou-frou into this, this is where kind of like the law of attraction comes in, right? Are you familiar with the law of attraction? Yeah. So this is where you are sending out those vibes out into the universe, and you're asking the universe, right now, I really need us to get up to $4,500 on our Patreon. I think this will allow Major Spoilers to do so much more. And you're just asking the universe for help, and you're talking about why these things matter to you, and you're talking about why this is important to you. And, this is the part that people instantly turn off on. The universe listens and responds, right? This was years before Laws of Attraction first became the big thing, with what's the love, that love book. Maybe it's just a law of, maybe that's what it is, or maybe it's just Law of Attraction, maybe that book. I had a guru guy that I've talked about before. If you've listened to the Weird Western story that we did on the Critical Hit podcast, my friend Harold was really into spiritualism and had been raised by, well, somewhat raised by monks when he was a younger person. But he would always tell me about people like Santana, the musician, how every time he would play music, he was playing that music and sending it out into the universe, and the universe would return that in the form of him being able to play better and to play longer and to have a successful music career. And so he was somebody who kind of introduced me, this is like 2000 or something like this, into these ideas of, asking the universe for help or asking the universe for these things. But if you are someone that doesn't want to believe that, then believe that you have that power within you, and that's where the goals come from. And it's planting that seed today. Jupiter Jet, Volume 3, next year at this time, Ashley. You plant that seed now, and then you work towards it. And then you can say, well, yes, the universe, of course, there is no big G, little g, God, whatever you want to say. I did this all on my own, and that's also empowering. So however you want to approach it.
Also, I think signs from the universe are not necessarily always someone coming and whispering in your ear, right?
That's true, too.
People keep offering you work in a certain medium, and maybe it's not necessarily what you were striving for. Take that sign from the universe and maybe consider what you're good at and how your skills translate and how you can translate them into other.
Funny.
We're getting so woo-woo today, but
no. That is so
really
funny that you say that.
Stuff.
I am someone that also looks at that coincidences, and for years I've done the let's set goals, let's set personal goals, financial goals, and want goals, the materialism goals. But today, for some reason, I just said, I'm going to change this up a little bit, and I want these students to write down the 5 things that they think that they are really, really good at, right? Write these things down. And then
Nice.
I said, write down the things that you want to be better at, and write those down. And so hopefully that then has started planting the seed. And it's funny because you just brought that up. Basically the exact same thing, the exercise we were doing today. Hopefully when it comes time for them to think up a business later in the class that they might want to form, I can say, look at the things you're good at, look at the things that you want to be better at, and how can you take those things, this love of comics, but also having knowledge of working for NBC Universal, doing stuff for Gawker, running major websites in the media production area, understanding audio and video production. How can you take all of that and turn it into a business, which is where Major Spoilers comes from. So there you go.
Are most people in your class trying to take on creative business types?
No, and that's the weird thing is years ago, the department chair was someone who believed that everybody should start a business, which, I can understand because you do learn a lot when you start a business. But so many of the people who are in the program are not people who want to be entrepreneurs. They just want to go and get a job. And so then we start to develop, well, how can you take an entrepreneurial mindset and apply that to your work so that you can, again, follow trends, see where things are going. And then if a company needs to pivot, or you can make suggestions, or even what Google and I don't know if Apple does it, but Google for sure, where they devote a certain percentage of your time is supposed to be to your own endeavors and your own activities so that you might be able to develop something that's so that Google can, turn it into a product or something. So it was kind of starting to develop that mindset, but so many of the students are not into being business owners. So we're just trying to cultivate that idea of what does it take to become a business owner? Maybe that will give them some better perspectives as well.
In hindsight, I would have killed for a course like that because I went to theater school and our industry class didn't really teach us anything business forward. And now I'm in a position where I'm always on the brink of starting an S Corp, but I never quite make enough money where it's like, which means that someday I will, and I will have to do that. But we sit down and we make budgets, and that's a big thing. And I encourage everyone, if they're thinking about doing a Kickstarter, make a budget, make an accurate budget. Is like, I don't have any business training. I don't have any financial training.
Neither do I.
You'd be surprised how you end up in that position, and then suddenly you're running Major Spoilers.
Oh, yeah. No, that's what I tell the students. The first day of class, the first words out of my mouth is, I own a business, but I'm horrible at business. I have no idea what I'm doing half the time because I've never taken business school. But that is what I would say 90% of startups are about. People who don't know business, but they have an idea, they have a goal, they have a dream. And then they find the people who have the business sense. I mean, if anybody's seen Silicon Valley, in that startup, none of them have business sense. until they start latching on to the main woman of the show, who kind of advises them and is kind of their business manager, their financial manager. She's the one that advises them on how to do business. They have a lawyer that they go to who understands the law and gives them advice on how to do law. Yes, it's done in a very comical way, but that's the same way it is with me. I've got an accountant. I've got people who have a business background that I can go and talk to. I've got a lawyer. So if any of these things come up, if Ashley suddenly comes up and says, hey, do you know about AB5? And I'm like, I have no idea what AB5 is. Why are you bothering me in October about this?
Yep.
And then over the course of 3 months, hey, I pretty much know what AB5 is all about. And after long conversations with my accountant this week, I know all about what is the form W8WEB or something like whatever that form is. It's how I'm supposed to be paying people who are international. So yeah, so you get to learn all this stuff, and you know, I don't know. We've covered a lot today, Ashley.
I feel like we got way in the weeds, but I think it was great.
I hope so. I hope people, I know that the chat has been relatively quiet, and I don't know if it's because they're totally bored with what we're saying or if they're hanging on our every word. No, they're in awe of our
brilliance.
But I know that Scald's Tale says, I would have killed for a class like this in my music school. I hope to take one if I get into a PhD program. And Malone says, it's sometimes good not to have business management skills at first. I have, and it made me way too cautious to take any risk. And that is really important. And we do have, in my class, I do have a section on risk and risk taking and why, if you're not taking risks, you're failing. If Ashley had not taken the initiative, taken the risk and said, oh, could I come and work for Major Spoilers? We wouldn't have this fantastic show today. Aww, so there, what do you think of that, Ashley?
Very flattered.
So yeah, I really think that, and I wouldn't say that, you know, again, the class that I'm teaching is not about how to run a business, but it's things like, how do you start a business? How do you kind of go and look for investors? How do you go and, which I'm horrible at, but we'll muddle through. But what happens when your business starts to fail and you need to pivot to something else? How to plan for runways and those kinds of things. And I would, if you are someone who is still in school, or if some of you are high schoolers watching this, I don't think we have too many high schoolers, but if you are in college, if you're a college student watching this, I would encourage you to go and talk to your department's chair and say, hey, especially if you're not in a business school, but if you're in an arts program, I wish more arts programs would have business classes as requirements, even if it's something as simple as, here's how you do your taxes, here's how you do basic money management, here are things that you should be thinking about as an indie creator. Yeah. So there you go.
I also think that should be, something in high school. Be like, here's a credit card, here's how you pay your bills, here's how you ask for an extension on your bills, because it's truly not a big deal. Like, those are like life skill things that when you are a young person, you don't really think of, and then you get to be old, like me, and you're like, I wish someone had told me how to do this when I was 18.
Oh no, the sidekick, bringing it back around to the sidekick again. He understands that just clicking on the buy button on your phone isn't some magical free thing. He is now having to pay off those hundreds of dollars of Apple iTunes purchases, in-app purchases from Christmas. So yeah.
Raking a lot of leaves, clearing out a lot of gutters.
He's doing any money that comes in, whether it's from grandma and grandpa, whether it's from chores, whether it's from whatever. It's just like, well, you might as well give that to your mother because you haven't paid off your debt yet. So he's learning what it means to pay off debt and not have money.
Yeah, he's young, so that's gonna keep him from getting any sketchy loans later on. So
I hope so, but I'm not doing. Can you
let's speak it out in the universe, Stephen? It'll happen.
Yeah. Oh man, I hope my kids are financially successful. Please, universe, please make my kids financially successful, because I don't want them living with me forever. Okay, so Scald's Tale says, can you mention again the story circle? That is indeed the Dan Harmon one. You can go and find it. There's a number of people that have broken down the story circle. But if you go and look and just do a search, the one that you want is the one from Channel 101. It's, let me just pop it up here so you guys can see it on the website. This is the one, it's Channel 101, the fandom website, the Channel 101 wiki, the story structure 101, super basic stuff. And it is written by Dan Harmon, and he breaks down over multiple pages how the story circle works. And you know what's weird about the Story Circle? Well, he's talked about Story Circle so much. He appears in a Simpsons episode talking about the Story Circle as a community college teacher. If you have seen, what is it, Tree of Life, is it Malick? The Malick movie. He is a guest
Terrence
at a party.
Malick?
Yeah, the Terrence Malick movie. He's talking about the Story Circle in a party that takes place in one of the Terrence Malick films. So it's been around forever. It really became popular during Community, and now that he uses it again for Rick and Morty, so many people are jumping into and discovering how the Story Circle is probably a better, more concise, and easily understood concept than either the 3-act structure or the hero's journey and the steps that are laid out in the hero's journey.
I would encourage people to, if you are like me and you have a hard time trying to wrap your head around it, find someone who has broken it down with an example of a character that you know a lot about. So, like, I was very fortunate. Jason Inman broke it down about Luke Skywalker, who's my favorite Star Wars character. But you can find lots of examples from a lot of, like, very, very popular genres. And for me, that was, like, a key to finally understanding how it worked. And then I use that basically to go and do the hero's journey version. But it depends on the type of story that you're telling, you know.
The other video that I would suggest you check out if you want to know more about this is go to the Studio Binder YouTube channel, or just do a search for Story Circle Batman, and they take the Dark Knight movie, the Dark Knight Returns or whatever, and they kind of simplify the Story Circle and talk to you about the Long Dark Night and the meeting with the goddess and all this stuff in a very simple terms for you to understand. So go and check out the Story Circle, and hopefully that helps you out as well. Okay, it looks like everybody has to run, including us. Life skills class should totally be in high school. I agree. One more time, Ashley, tell us one more time about Jupiter Jet, where people can go, and the website is the most important part. And then let's get this thing funded by the end of the weekend.
To support Jupiter Jet and the Forgotten Radio, you can go to jupiterjetcomic.com. That'll take you right to the Kickstarter page. The link and a bunch of information is available all over my social media at Ashley V. Robinson. The press release is up on Major Spoilers. There's tons of information there. If you liked this and you would like to be the Steven to my Ashley in this situation, we have Skype calls that are available, and they're some of my favorite rewards because we have some of the most amazing backers and supporters in the whole wide world. And Jupiter Jet is really a collaborative effort between us and everyone out there who supports. We couldn't do it without you. And if the book funds, this is a victory for all of us, not just for me.
Yeah, and it's a victory for indie creators, because I think that's the big thing. Little people with big dreams, making them happen, and that's a great way to do it. JupiterJetComic.com. Listen, if you can't fund her, you can't support it, at least do us one favor and get out there on your social medias and point people to it. If you have friends with young children, I think this is right up their alley. Young girls, young boys, get it in their hands. There are some rewards on this where you can get both Volume 1 and Volume 2, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yes, and you can also get Volume 2 and Science.
Oh, see, you can get Science as well. So go out and support that, JupiterJetComic.com. Ashley, one more time, where can people find you on the Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ashley V. Robinson. The V is very important.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for checking us out this week on Finally Friday. I'll be back tomorrow to do another game stream. I think we're going to go back into Red Dead Redemption 2 once more, and we're going to go into that online world, and we're going to see what's going on in that online world. And maybe some of you, I know a couple of you, Malone, I think, or not Malone, Marshall has created his online character. And so maybe we will team up and go on some adventures together. That's tomorrow, 3 o'clock Saturday, 3 o'clock p.m. Central Time, right here on this channel, twitch.tv/Major Spoilers. Until next time, for Ashley Victoria Robinson and myself, take care, do good, be good, and we will see you again real soon. Look at all those Erics and Ericas and all those awesome people. Love you all. Hope you guys enjoyed that show. I thought that was a good discussion. If you like that discussion and you're not already a patron, man, some of our pre-show stuff gets into the weeds like that too. All the Marks, and the Matthews, and the Lukes, and the Johns, and the Nicks, and the Noahs. You guys are so awesome. All of you all. J. Michael T, Marshall, Malone, Kevin 11, Scaldstale. Hopefully that was good information for you. So many awesome peoples. Take care.